Title of the lesson tonight, the talk, is how to unlock deep connections, discover the secrets to meaningful relationships. And when it comes to relationships, that's something all of us long for, all of us strive to have uh, in our lives, and we want them to be meaningful. We don't just want relationships where you really don't care about the person and you really don't matter to the person. We want relationships that matter. And when you speak of relationships, we sometimes speak of friendships, and friendships are supposed to be the easiest parts of life. But sometimes in life, when it gets heavy, you find out who your friends really are, whether or not they're going to help you carry the load or whether they're going to make you carry the load out all by yourself and say, I'm doing it for your good. And that's why we have these conversations so that you can look and see what type of relationships you have in your life, what type of relationships you have in your life that you need to get rid of, and what type of relationships you need to gain in your life. Because sometimes when we're looking at the relationships, we need to look in the mirror first to see what am I allowing or who am I allowing in my space and what is wrong with me that I allowed them to be here this long. So as we dialogue about this, make sure you're in the chat chiming in because we respond off of that as well. And make sure you just make sure you send this out, share it, like it. And as we dialogue, we're going to try to make sure that the conversation flows to the point to where we not only are up here just talking, but we're also learning about ourselves, learning about one another, and learning what it is that a meaningful relationship is. Okay, we're going to start this thing out with a simple question. Let's go with the first question. What would you say a lasting connect? Would you say lasting connections are?
So before I get started, I want to correct an error that I made. First and foremost, I want to address Miss Honeybee Fly. I didn't see, I skipped over your name and I do apologize. That was by accident also. And Miss Nodella Sacagawea, George, good to see you. Welcome. To your question, what would I say lasting connections are? I would say in very, I don't want to say concise format, but it is a time tested connection that is rooted in values, mutual trust, and reciprocity. I think those things become foundational when it comes down to those connections because that kind of gives us common ground to where we can meet on. We can have conversation, not just regular conversation, but conversations that yield some type of value, and there is a level of reciprocity that exists between us. And well, yeah, by the way, it is tested throughout the hands of time. So it has gone through the ups and downs. I've seen different changes in that person's life, that person seeing different changes in my life. But then by that same token, it does not rock the foundation of the relationship.
Okay, and I agree. I think there's also a level of transparency as well, because within a relationship, there has to be some transparency to where when we're talking, some people like to talk in theory, or some people like to talk about what ifs and these things. And when you have a relationship, if you stay in those areas where it's like a gray area, where I don't really know where you stand on the situation or what you're really asking me, sometimes you can leave just a blank area out there to where you're asking me for something, but I don't necessarily know what to give you, but I'm gonna give you something. And sometimes people build those relationships where there's no transparency, there's no because of the privacy aspect. So when it comes to the transparency versus privacy, do you think they can coexist within those relationships?
Reframe that question because I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Like if you and I we're in a relationship,
Sure.
how do you measure who you can be transparent with? Who can you tell your darkest secrets? Who you can discuss those things with? Or do you take those things and just keep them in the back of your pocket and say, man, I'm a private person when you're speaking of building meaningful relationships?
Sure. I think the relationship itself defines that. Um, when I look at, let's just say, husband and wife, um, they should have a level of relationship that I don't want to say mandates transparency to where you sharing deepest, darkest secrets, But then by that same token, there's some things that are not necessary to talk about. I don't necessarily I need to talk about the details of your past and past relationships and things of that nature because I'm more interested in the person who you are right now. However, comma, you sharing some things about your past helped me to better understand who you are today. Um, but then if I have a relationship to where a lot of times we get together and the only thing we talk about is football, then 9 times out of 10, I may not necessarily be as revealing or transparent about some of those secrets that you make mention of. Now, can that relationship evolve to that? Sure. If both parties become intentional about the evolution of that relationship having depth and breadth. So again, going back to my original point, I think the relationship kind of dictates that, and then people kind of respond to that in kind.
Now, is when we're speaking of meaningful relationships, I think sometimes people can conflate meaningful and they just jam everybody in that they deem as so-called important in their life because they may need something. So let's just run right over into question two. Should this pertain to everyone? And we went away. Question two. Should this pertain to everyone? And how do we determine who falls into this category of people deserving of being within a meaningful relationship?
So my initial response is that we are relational creatures. We were created to connect with one another. So should this pertain to everyone? Sure, it should. How do we determine who falls in this category? We don't. That's the thing. I believe behavior determines that for me. And I think a lot of times when you take a look at it, like I don't have to make you be a particular type of way. I don't have to force you to do anything. Like your behavior will tell me the story that your mouth refused to tell me. So when your behavior shows up after the lip service, I believe the behavior. And then based upon the behavior, I allow things to transpire in that fashion. I think a lot of times, like you said, we try to force a thing to be that, in terms is just not going to be. Again, everybody's talked about it, everybody's said it, when a person shows you who you are, believe them. That goes for me too. When I show you who I am, believe me. Because trust me, my behavior and my lips aren't gonna lie to you. I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you exactly who I am. And trust me, you can take it to the bank. Because when you don't believe what I say, and then I show and prove that I am doing exactly what I say, I'm just saying. So I think we don't determine who falls in the category. The person's behavior determines what category they want to fall in because that's the truth for them. It doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what I want for the person, but their behavior will always tell you the truth.
Now, can behavior be one of those things where you're looking at behavior as we speak, but it doesn't necessarily speak to who the person is or who they're trying to be? Because I know sometimes what I'm saying is sometimes when you speak to people, they're showing you through their hurts, they're showing you through this. So they're not showing you who they truly are, and then they may not even understand what they need out of said relationship. So is that somebody you would even take the time with and say, okay, let's see where this goes?
So, so again, going back to the relationship defining, right? If I had made a decision, just humor me for a second. If I made a decision and we are married, now I don't have a choice. I need to work with this person. But at that same token, if we're just associates or whatever the case may be, unless you come to me and verbally ask me for this type of help, then at the end of the day, I'm not going to extend myself to that degree because 9 times out of 10, it's probably unwanted by that person. Um, you're absolutely right. There are three different types of people that exist in everybody. It doesn't really matter because the foundation of who you really are is going to present itself through your behavior. You can say, I want to be this person, but your behavior shows up. Believe that person at the level of their behavior because everybody got goals, everybody got dreams, whatever that looks like. But again, that is something to aspire to. Do I have to be that person that sit around and assess how much you've grown between yesterday and today? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, if relationship presents itself right now, be that person now. And if you can't be that person, that's okay, right? It doesn't make you a bad person. You don't have to you don't have to demonize the person. Give that person the necessary space that their behavior is requiring. Because the only thing that's going to happen when you try to get in there and quote unquote fix somebody else, which a lot of times that's what people end up doing, there's going to be a lot of frustration. There's going to be a lot of anguish. There's going to be a lot of turmoil.
I like Miss Charlotte Jordan's statement. Our actions speak volumes, good or bad. What's in us comes out of us, and that's a true statement because I'm a person where I don't care what the relationship is. If you ask me something, I got to tell you what I think. I got to tell you how I feel. It's not that I'm not trying to cater to your feelings or anything like that. And I had somebody, I'm just going to say somebody, and they were talking about how they wanted to be in shape and they wanted to do this and they wanted to do. I'm like, no, you don't. Why are you lying to me and yourself? Because if you wanted to do it, you would take the necessary steps to do said thing. And that's how we are in life and relationships. We say we want these relationships. We say we want to be a better person and all these things, but you don't take the necessary steps and you blame attitude. Well, I got mad or you made me this. Or you always push the blame off on someone else instead of looking in the mirror and saying, man, I have some work to do. And that's why even when I got this as an initial thing, I said, man, this starts with the person in the mirror. Any relationship that I'm in has to start with me. Because if I'm not in a place to where I can functionally have a good relationship, a meaningful relationship with said person, then I don't care what that person does. I'm going to make it a catastrophic event for them and me. And then it's going to be one of those things where I knew this person was this, and I knew this person was that. So,
Yeah, there are several instances, and I think just about everybody here will agree to this, not just because of the way it's going to sound, but because you have the experience to support it. There are several instances to where we've been in relationships with people to where we've seen the obviousness of their behavior, but we still elected to connect with them for one reason or the other. Right. So it's like we'll bypass the thing that we've seen, hoping that in the future that person will become this type of person. But they didn't give you any indication that that was the plight that they was heading on. You made all of that up in your head. So you took a chance. You played Russian roulette with this particular person and you lost. And like I said, I believe just about everybody has that experience. I know good and well I do. So I mean, and that's the evidence that's enough evidence that you have in your life to believe, to be able to discern in real time based upon the facts that you are currently seeing, and then be able to make a decision based upon the current level of facts.
example, you and I, me and you, however you want to phrase it, we were on a different platform. And the platform said that we were here for this purpose, to uplift certain people. But as we were there, we seen it was nothing of the such. So and that's one of those times when you see something or someone isn't who they portray themselves to be. Now it's up to you to say, okay, I got to remove myself from this situation, because if I don't, I'm saying by my presence that I agree. And if I'm staying, I gotta, I'm saying I agree, or I'm just setting myself up for arguments. And that's where, when you're in relationships, sometimes you gotta pull back so that you can see what that relationship is doing for you or to you. It's either changing you or you're changing it, or you actually moving forward together. And I think sometimes we just need to stop and look in the mirror so that we can not try to psychoanalyze other people and see why they are who they are, why they are doing the things that they do, but analyze yourself and say, why am I allowing myself to be done like this? Or why am I putting myself in spaces to where this can happen? And I'm here, so I must be happy with it. I'm choosing it.
So I do have a question about that because I've heard people say that several times actually. And I'm curious, not so much as curious where that originated from, but I'm also curious of your perspective of it. If I am in said relationship with an individual, is psychoanalysis wrong?
No, no. I think I'm a person. We're similar. I think that's what we do with everybody because you want to know what's coming in your sphere. I want to know where you are. So when it comes to I want to know what makes your brain tick. It's just like when I'm dealing with my grandkids. I ask them when they do the dumbest stuff. I'm like, I want them to think about it. Like, what made you think about it? Why did you do this? So now, when a person can tell you why they made said decision, now you have a better understanding of where they are. And because sometimes we showing grace, we'll put people in position in places to where they shouldn't be. And instead of doing your due diligence and saying, man, let me analyze this person's behavior, let me analyze this person's decision making, and then go from there, we will automatically say, oh man, this person, that's a good dude. You just met him 2 minutes ago. You don't know that he's a good dude. You just know that in this instance, he did something that you appreciated, that you liked, instead of sitting back weighing it later, and because that's how people fall in line with other people who aren't necessarily like them. Then they say, man, I thought you was this, and I thought you were that.
Yeah, I get that. I think I think it depends on the type of relationship, right? Again, if we're in that relationship to where we have this close connection, um, I believe psychoanalysis is necessary. And here's why. Because I believe ultimately relationship is literally the ultimate training ground. So literally, if we do it right, relationships make every party in that relationship better. A lot of times what people don't want to do is they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth based upon how they're seen, based upon what they're doing, based upon what they say compared to what they do, based upon how they're showing up in this relationship. So in that regard, they don't want to be ushered into a higher plane of existence. They really just want you to accept them for who they are. Now, again, if we have one of those connections to where we're not that close, then no, I don't think it's necessary. I wouldn't even waste the mental energy, not saying waste as in a bad thing, but again, I know it's already unwanted. So why would I even try to put forth that degree of energy to try to share that with you, knowing, especially if you've already shown that you're going to reject it anyway? I got it. That's just what you want to believe when it comes down to relationship, and therefore that's how you're going to show up in relationship. But again, if the relationship is a close knit relationship, like we are brothers, or we are in a very tight relationship, married, whatever the case may be, psychoanalysis is necessary.
Definitely. That's now it's me and you up here, but I'm looking in the chat and I see a bunch of females. And we don't do the whole battle of the sexes and things of that nature. But and this is just across the board, when we see relationships and relationships that are driven by the sexes with one another, do you see a difference in how men connect versus how women connect in the level of relationships that they have?
Sure, absolutely. Men generally connect on principles. Women generally connect with men based upon something that's hinged on emotions, but then followed by principles. Men lead by principles, and then it leads to being more vulnerable. So a man won't be vulnerable with another man initially. They have to have principles that align them together, and then from there, they'll start expression of vulnerability. On this side, if we are on this side, you're gonna get something thrown at you, bro. On this side, if the emotions exist, then the vulnerability will follow. So that's why I say that, and neither is bad, right? I want to make sure I'm saying that. So please don't believe that I'm saying that the way that women connect with men is bad, or the way that men connect with men are bad compared to one another. There is no comparison, right? It's just the way it is. And so when we understand that, then that helps us to understand how to respond to certain things as well. So, the way to connection, to me, um, I won't say it's immaterial, but at the end of the day, we should be connecting on something that's more foundational and something that has a more lasting impact.
Okay. And I apologize for the bunch of women statements. Sometimes I get very conversational, and it's gonna come out. Now, see one thing up there. Miss Honeybee said, "Absolutely, men are less petty than women," and
Mm-mm.
that's a women. That's a sometimes, but I think that it's a different petty because, like we know, but I think what I when I say like men and women, we can have a art and we can have all a disagreement, whatever you want to call it, and we will discuss it. We will talk about it, and then it'd be like, okay, if we're mature adults, we talking about two mature adults, and we'll talk about it, and we'll be good. Whereas sometimes the opposite sex, they will have a art, and it's a yada yada, it's a cat fight, this, that, and the other. It is. Nine sisters, trust me, I've seen it, and not necessarily talking about it's. This is not an all in every case, but I've seen it to where women will, hey, they quit to cut you off, each other. They quit to say, hey, I don't need her, and da 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 da, and so forth and so on. So you think that has to do with the sexes, or is that just something that's innate in them? Just
I,
how
I,
petty?
I don't. I really don't because men are petty as well. I think we kind of aired. So two things happen in these conversations. I see a lot. Number one, you got in group and an out group, right? So I'm a man, and my in group is men. A lot of times we feel an allegiance to our in group, and we want to defend our in group at all possible costs, even though we know good and god doggone well our in group might be guilty, but we ain't going to accept that level of guilt because that means that I'm guilty because I'm in that in group, right? So you have that thing that's working, and then of course, because I'm in this in group, I am more critical of the out group. That's again, that's one thing that's working in the midst of this conversation. Secondly, my perception of relationship and the things that I've been through in my past is also a part of that decision making as well, because I will look at how these things may have transpired. I may not be completely honest with myself about what's happening in my in group, but I'm going to be completely transparent about how I feel about what happened with me and the person in my out group. But if we're completely honest, it doesn't matter, man, woman, whatever the case may be. Like when we're in a state of immaturity, a state of immature behavior, then man and woman both have that, back and forth, get back, whatever the case may be. That's the thing that we have to recognize. When we look at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, hold on. It's not just a woman thing, it's a man thing as well. Because trust and believe, only thing you got to do is pay attention. You see a lot of men expressing that same type of energy that men blame women for doing. Oh, yeah. And inversely, a lot of women displaying the same energy that women say men do. So it's like the answer here isn't a male versus female thing, it's a maturity versus an immaturity thing. Once we recognize that, then we'll have the ability to come to the conversation and discuss principles. When we're not discussing principles, we're discussing how I feel about what actually took place. And as long as I talk about what I feel, how I feel about what actually took place without analyzing how I feel, then we'll never come to any resolution.
Hmm. Hey, can't disagree with that. I think that sometimes we only see it from our vantage point, so you don't see the other side of the coin because, like, we've had conversations with multiple men, and it's like, man, if the women heard that, you'd be like, what? It'd be like, whoa, hey, yeah. So that's one of those things that you had to be there. If you could have been the fly on the wall, you could be more observant of how people are when you aren't around. Sometimes people are a certain way when you are around, and when you're privy to that other side, you get beyond the veil, then you can see a different side. But I think it is a maturity level thing. But yeah, let's go to question number 3. What are some necessary factors needed to establish this kind of bond that brings us to a meaningful relationship?
I think, and it's going to sound very similar to what I said previously. I think this relationship has to has a foundation. That foundation has to be rooted in something more concrete than how I feel. So therefore, there has to be some principles that lead to a shared set of values. If we have principles that lead to a shared set of values, now that means that we can exist in a space to where we can look at one another and we can carefully like exist in a space of relationship and observe each other's behavior. And I don't have to hold you in contempt for your behavior. I just have to make you aware of the behavior that you displayed, which goes outside of our values and then allows you the space and the latitude to fix it yourself. I think a lot of times what we tend to do is we try to play judge and jury, right? We hold a person, we'll hold trial, we'll hold a person in trial, we'll prosecute them, and then we'll hold them in contempt of court, all in the same conversation. And we're not even authorized to do that. So, principles rooted in a shared set of values. From that point on, there has to be some type of, and I'm going back to what I said previously. Well, let's go. I'll go back to what you said. You mentioned literally in so many words conflict, right? So we have the ability now to resolve conflict according to the principles and a shared set of values. Once we root it in that, then we'll realize that it's not so much as how I feel. Yeah, maybe he said that to me, but he was right. I was displaying the behavior that's not consistent with who I said I wanted to be, based upon who we say we're growing to be as men, right? So having the ability to resolve conflict quick. It shouldn't take all day. It shouldn't take all year. It literally should not take 24 hours. It should be us being able to resolve conflict on the spot. Well, what if I feel this particular type of way? Get over it. Get over it. That takes me to another point. The ability to regulate your own emotions.
Hmm.
It's very difficult to be in a relationship with a person who can't regulate their own emotions. I'm sorry. It is what it is, right? And then that, I leave this one out here because I don't want to take up too many of them. But then there has to be some reciprocity that exists in that relationship. It doesn't necessarily say that you have to do the exact same thing that I'm doing, but there has to be some type of reciprocal energy based upon something that I've done for you or to you in this relationship.
Now, you brought up reciprocity a couple times, and I agree wholeheartedly with you. And when we talk of reciprocity, I think some people, we've all heard the conversation, the 50-50, the 100-100, and all that, of what a person should be. Now, when we're in a relationship, and I don't care whether it's spouse, whether it's friend, whomever it is, when we're talking meaningful relationships, how does one determine how far to go, how much to give?
If that's the question I got to ask myself, then I need to refrain from being in a relationship.
Mm.
I'm just going to start there because I am in the relationship based upon lack. When I'm in a relationship based upon lack, I am going to be the predominant taker of the relationship.
Mm.
So it's not so much as how far determining how far I should go. It's me determining within myself how much value I can share, right? I don't do it because I fear what you're going to do in response. So I fear that you're not going to show up at the level. No, I do it because that's who I'm called to be. So even though, like you said, you do, and you gave the numbers, right? So I go with the 50, 50-50 thing, right? If you do 50, if I can do 100, why not do 100? But if I regulate 100 down to 50 because you did 50, I should not be in relationship. I need to take a seat and go back and analyze my perception of relationship. When we do that, again, relationship is a space of collaboration. I think that's one of the biggest things that we struggle with because we may view, especially in our immature state, we may view collaboration based upon how much you're collaborating with me. No, like if you recognize who you're called to be, you're supposed to do it first. I don't have to wait on you to do something for me to actually do it. Do it without any expectation of anything in return. Just do it just because who you are. If that person in the relationship with you is worth their grain of salt, they will meet you and exceed where you are because at the end of the day, they're not necessary, and it's not a competition, right? That's the thing we have to keep in mind. Too many times we get in the space of relationship and we compete. How much can I get out this relationship compared to how much that person is giving? Oh, well, I don't know. That all of that is not good. So again, I go back. If that's the question I have to ask myself, if I am regulating myself because I want to see what you're doing first, then I'm not ready for a relationship. I need to have a seat.
Hmm. Low level conversations. What's she bringing to the table? I'm with you with that. And I think that we also, when we're looking at the relationship, whatever I'm asking of someone, I should already be willing to bring. I'm not looking to see, okay, what you gonna do, what you gonna do. I'm looking at it like, man, but I think sometimes, and that's why you got to psychoanalyze. That's why you got to know who you're in relationship with, because there are takers. There are people who are looking for a come up. There are people who looking just to ride someone else's coattail. But that's why you have to be a wise person of who you allow in your space. So when we're talking about building, when we're talking about growing, I got to say, okay, what part of this is this? Can this person help with? If we're talking about building, because I'm looking at, okay, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. I'm not trying to regulate them to a certain amount. I'm not trying to regulate me to, because like I can do 100, but I'm only going to do this. No, when we're looking at relationships that are meaningful, it's about us getting to the desired end together. So now, how are we going to get there? And we tend to put ourselves in positions where those relationships that we have, that's why when we look at our children, hey, you got to go at 18. That's why we're looking at our spouse, you got to do this and you got to do that. Instead of saying, man, how can I help you get to a better place? Because if we're in a relationship, me helping you helps me. And when we look at the relationship as that, me helping Dwayne, it helps me. It ain't like, okay, what I'm getting out of it. Because if I'm constantly thinking about what I'm getting out of something, then I'm in the relationship for the wrong reason. So, as you said earlier, you need to rethink your whole definition of relationship.
Yeah, sit down somewhere. No, and I'll even go back and say this: if we're in relationship, I shouldn't even have to ask, right? I think that's the other spot as well. Like I should not have to ask what you bring to the table or whatever the case may be. You should be willing to just do whatever it is that you do because of who you actually serve. See, that's the big piece. And that's why I keep going back to principles. Because if we understand these principles, the person, the who I actually serve and who is actually in me won't allow me to exist in a relationship halfway, like one foot in. You know what is that? You know, put your right foot in, take your right foot out. You're not doing the hokey pokey here, right? If you're gonna be in it, you're gonna be like mystical. If if you ain't gonna be down, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, be all the way down or get from around me. That's the thing. And here's the thing: I'm that person. If you want to go, baby, let me open the door for you. Hold on, wait. Your hands full. Hold on, let me get that for you. Like that's me. Because at the end of the day, I don't want nobody to be where they don't want to be.
Right.
And that's the thing that we have to understand. Stop asking people what they bring to the table. How about you just lay your cards on the table and just say, hey, who wants to play?
And I think I've seen somebody the 100% thing in there. I think that within a relationship, sometimes I'm not able to give 100, but I'm 100% in. So I'm gonna give what I have. And I think we need to stop looking at the division of labor or the division of whatever. Now, that's different when you talk about different subjects, because I'm a person believe certain structure. And you were saying it's like you were alluding to who we serve. If you serve someone who has provided for you where you didn't do a thing, you did zero. So me requiring a number from another person, say, hey, you got to give your all, when that person ain't capable right now. That person is not capable of the 10, 20, 30%. But what they do, they give their all in what they do give. I think that's where we got to look at the individual. We got to look at the person and not at the objective and not at the task, because sometimes we're so task driven and we're so westernized in thought of how we move that we say, man, well, you're not doing this for me. You're not doing this. Is it for you or is it for the relationship? Is it for
Right.
the family? And if the family is working together, and like that's that petty part. I'm petty. I be the first to tell you. I used to, I had kids living here. I leave something on the floor and watch and see who walk by. So just so I can have a conversation, because I'm looking like, hey, if this is our house, yeah, I pay all the bills. But if it's our house, then it's our responsibility to keep it clean, not just mine. It's ours. And you can do that a little bit. You can keep your room clean. You can do some dishes. You can, I'm taking the brunt of this and I'm not even complaining about it. I'm not trying to throw it in anyone's face. But, and that's one of those things where we got to step back and say, man, am I ready for a relationship where I may have to pull the brunt of it? I may have to pull the load because of who I am, not because of who that person is.
Right.
Because if that person is in a relationship with me, like if me and you were talking and you made it aware that you had a problem and I could fix that problem and I'm your friend and I walk away from the table right then, I'm not your friend. I'm just a person that, is hanging on waiting.
Facts. I before I do that, his divine appointment, greatly appreciate you and thank you for all that you do for this community. And also Nick D, greatly appreciate you and thank you for all you do in this community. Just to let you guys know, everything that's given to this community is recycled back into the community in the form of products and things that we can offer you guys. So greatly appreciate all you guys do. I heard a young man say, and I thought it was so amazing that I stitched it, and I reshared it, because he was spot on. Because we were talking about reciprocity, and I think sometimes people believe that reciprocity is an equal exchange. It's not an equal exchange. It is a response of appreciation to what somebody else is doing or who somebody else is within the space of relationship. That young man said, he said, in this time and space, in this day and age, there's a lot of men who are struggling. He said, as a man or as a husband or a father, if you don't have the backbone or the intestinal fortitude to put your foot down and say that we're not doing this because it is not to the benefit of the family or the longevity and strength and the direction that we're going as a family, knowing that your wife gonna be mad at you, knowing that your kids gonna be mad at you, but you still gonna be the bad guy, and you still make that decision. He said that's the thing that men today are missing. And I wholeheartedly agree. That is your responsibility as a man to make the very difficult choice for the longevity, preservation, and strength of your family. And I promise you, when he said that, I was like, oh my goodness, I've been saying this for the longest. I'm sorry, every man, and I'm talking specifically to men now, every man need to look in the mirror and ask himself, if I needed to tell her no, can I tell her no because of the fact of what the future plan of this family is? Can I tell my kids no and not worry about being struggling with people pleasing? Because at the end of the day, you are raised and conditioned to please everybody in the family. But recognizing that you're doing it for the long duration of the family, for the preparation for the growth and development of those kids. That's the thing I want every man to consider. Because when it comes down to this particular topic here, it begins there. And if you can't do that, do not infect nobody else's daughter with your insecurities.
I like that. You said in fact. Hey, that's exactly what it is. It's sometimes you're infecting them with your energy. Like I'm an energy person. You can bring somebody to a place to where you bring them down to your level. But somebody got a question for you in the chat, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bring it. Can you bring that question? There you go. Said, what about the woman who gives from the heart and can't get anything back in return, asking for a friend?
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. What about her? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be funny, but what about her? Like I'm not and so okay. As it is written, what about the woman who give from the heart Well, that's why I will isolate this question before I move into anything else, because maybe, and I'm just saying, maybe your perception of can't get anything back in return is based upon your perspective of giving from the heart. Again, like I said, reciprocity is not an equal exchange, right? And when we view it as an equal exchange, every time I regulate something to something that is number one, intangible, number two, unmeasurable, whatever the case may be, and then I hold somebody else accountable for the thing that I believe that I am doing, and I want that person to do it at the same level that I'm doing it, then I am setting a stage of impossibility for that other person. So even though I joked in the beginning, like, what about her? But and like if I'm being completely transparent, I would say assess what you mean by who gives from the heart. Because at the end of the day, I think everybody, and I say it this way, I think that everybody believes wholeheartedly that they're doing the best they can right where they are with what they have. And that question in turn says that the woman who gives from the heart is giving the best she can with what she has, but the other person is not. And I
Mm.
don't think either person, and this is not just directed at her, this is for everybody. I don't think there is a person that's qualified to say what another person's best is. So, again, my responsibility in the space of relationship is my responsibility. That's the only thing I can focus on. And if I focus on my responsibility, then I give from that point on. If you focus on your responsibility, then you give according to your understanding of your responsibility. And if we do it right, we have a healthy relationship to where reciprocity is a thing, no one feels slighted. And if that person feels slighted, we have the foundation in the roots in that relationship so we can have a conversation and grow based upon that.
Yeah. When I seen that, I thought about the giving from the heart. I think sometimes we look at the material part or the what we're actually giving because I meant it, and sometimes it does come with a slight disrespect back because it's like, hold up, I'm doing all of this, and it's like anybody who has kids has experienced this
Mhm.
where you give, and then they like it's like the more I give you, the the crazier you get. And when it comes to those relationships where it's like a take, now I have to be the mature person. I can't sit up there and keep putting it off on someone else. That's where conversations have to be had. That's where we have to sit down and let's have a conversation about uh, not about, oh, I'm doing all this and I'm doing all of that, but
Mm.
about, hey, I'm under a lot of stress because of all of this. How we gonna get past this? Because I need help. And if I need help, that means we need help because one person can't do everything if it's a two-person lift. So I love the question, and I would have loved for it to be, where you didn't have to think about it because sometimes you can read into questions,
Sure.
and
Right.
it sounds more emotional than it does. Where you're like, okay, let's see what we're talking about. Are we talking about an emotional response to something that happened, and where I was given, and that person wasn't given anything, or is it where I was given what I thought was necessary, and that person was actually given all they had, and that's
Right.
all they had.
Right. And she said she would pass that on. And again, I think the thing that we have to understand is that in the space of relationship, we're looking for good versus bad. So if a person doesn't do what I do, then that person's a bad person. They're not a bad person. They just don't understand how to show up in relationship. But the other side of it as well, and I go this route, um, because of what you just said. The other side of it is the hyper emotional person does not know how to show up in relationship as well. If everything that they are in a relationship is rooted and grounded in how they feel, then that again, that's a recipe for disaster because that other person will be tied to the fact of making them feel good regardless of whatever happens moving forward. So the minute that person don't feel, it's your fault. When that person, it's your fault. It's always going to be that. So again, that's why I said when we talk about relationships like this, it has to be rooted in principles to where there are shared values, and that becomes the pivot point. So now when I don't feel, I go back to the shared values and I look at the shared values, and the shared values say, well, wait, that's a me problem. I need to fix a me before I go talk to a you. And that's always going to be the response. And I love what Nick D said in response to this. She said, the problem comes in when we give with an expectation of receiving something in return. That is not giving from the heart. Right. That in turn can, and if I'm being honest, that in turn can be a gateway to manipulation, because sometimes people will give so that you can give to them.
Mm-hmm. And some of that has to do with how we were raised. Because when we were raised, it was, hey, when you get 18, you're going to get out of here. Or, like we grew up in a time where we had paper routes and stuff. I don't know if you did, but when you got 10, my grandma made you got to go out and do something. And you had to bring back to the house. And it was always feeling like, man, if I don't have to give, I had a guilt feeling. And because I had that guilt feeling, it just transferred over when I became an adult, when I couldn't do. I'm trying, but I couldn't do it. So now I have mental anguish and mental illness because those things weighed on me and they were never taken care of. So when it came to having meaningful relationships, anytime I felt I wasn't doing my part personally, I'm looking at like, man, I can't give. I can't do this and I can't do that. And one of those organizations that's quick to guilt you, we know, they say, will a man rob God? Well, how have you robbed me? You've robbed me in tithes and offering. Dig deep. Don't give that little dollar. Don't give that little jingling money. When you guilt people into doing a thing, it's a psychological warfare that's happening. It has nothing to do with the spiritual. And people don't want to address that because it's like, we've been doing it so long. We'd rather just go along with the flow, and I'm just going to give this dollar. I don't care what he said.
Yeah, man, we want the one that fold, not the one that's cold.
Yeah. Give me that quiet money.
Hey, real quick, man, before we move on, Lisa Keys, greatly appreciate you and thank you for all your support. Like I said, everything that's given to this channel is repurposed back into the channel. And again, we greatly appreciate you.
Let's go to the next question. What's the difference between trauma bonding and codependency? Yeah, I had to bring this up.
I don't like it. I don't like it. And I tell you why I don't like it, because most of it is rooted in theory. It takes the presupposition that a thing is a trauma without the factual data that a thing is a trauma. And so a lot of times we call a trauma a thing because a person won't let go of the thing. So trauma bonding becomes a relationship to where you have a abuser and the abused. And what ends up happening is that it's like, the best way to describe it is Ike and Tina Turner. I'm just going to put it out there like that. I'm sorry. A cycle of abuse happens. And that's really what it is. It's a continual cycle of abuse. But then there is some form of emotional manipulation on the backside that actually makes the person get to the point of having some type of dependency on their abuser. And so it's almost like, and that's why I brought up the whole Ike and Tina, because when Tina was getting ready to leave, Ike was kind of going back to her and pleading with her and saying, all kind of stuff like that. According to the movie, that's all I had to go. I have to say it that way. According to the movie. So that's kind of like what trauma bonding is. Again, I'm struggling with the word trauma. I get it. But again, it is a cycle of behavior that's constantly existing. Codependency is where you have a giver and a taker, right? And again, it's all about the giver given to such a degree that the taker actually needs. And so they're sacrificing themselves for I don't even want to go as far as saying well-being, because it doesn't have to be that extreme. It could just simply be as limiting as a person's inability to regulate themselves. So now, say, for example, if I'm married and I have a wife and all she does is spend money, right? All she does is spend money because she is emotionally shopping whenever she is not feeling herself. Whenever she wakes up, she's not feeling good. I'm not providing emotional this for her. Now she go and does what do you call it? Therapy shopping. That's what people can call it, right? And so now it becomes a detriment to me because I am having to support that habit. So all she is doing is taking, all I'm doing is giving, and that becomes the foundation of the relationship. I don't like it.
Yeah, I know that. I knew you would. But I think that also when it comes to the trauma bonding and versus the codependency with trauma bonding, sometimes people who have the same uh, traumas per se, they can tend to gravitate towards one another as well and have that experience. But what we're talking about is where the actual abuser and the abused, they have that relationship, and it's almost a, if I leave them, then what'll happen?
Right.
And you see where people, I, I, I can't even say it on here because we on here, but I had a situation where one of my, it was an NCO under me, and he had a female friend that he was trying to leave alone, and he hung up on her, and she called back. And then she was saying, well, if you hang up on me again, I'm going to do this. He hung up on her again. And she called back and said, why you hang up on me? And he said, because you told me you had something to do. And yeah, he was cold, but it's like if you can't hold me to something and try to make me stay with you or make me do what you want me to do, but that's what people do. And when we say we have these meaningful relationships, and some of them are built on trauma. Some of them are built on the codependency because I'm gonna keep giving to you because you're gonna keep coming back to me. I keep you, I keep on breadcrumbing you, as they say, or whatever, so that you need me. I don't need you, but you need me. And now I'm holding that over your head. And that's why people need to do that self work, that self analysis, that work on say, hey, at the end of the day, how can I be better for me at the end of the day? Because me better for me is better for whomever I'm in a relationship with. And it's not just a one off. I think sometimes people get into those one offs to where they realize that, hey, this thing is not necessarily simply about me, but I'm a part of it. And if I'm a part of it, I want to see it grow. So now when we look at what makes this group connect, now, what are our values? We did all that talking. What are our values? And when we can establish our values, then we have a foundation to start from. But if we just go off of how you make me feel or what you can do for me and all of these things, now it's like, okay, once you stop doing, once you make me feel bad, now, hey, I don't want to deal with you no more.
I want to grab Sergeant Major Ryan. Rhino. Always gonna be Rhino to me. Sergeant Major Rhino. Sergeant Major Ryan in the chats because he asked a great question. He asked, is shared suffering important to share a bond? Let me see if I can start with that.
It's shared suffering.
Yes.
Now that would depend on the shared suffering because I think that we talking shared suffering, so it's not like you're doing it by yourself. So it's both of us, and it has to do with our bond. So it's part of the fabric of who we are. I think that when you share in the suffering, you also share in the building of it. I think these kids out here talking. So I'm trying to see exactly the
Well,
extent.
let me say this, and maybe this will help clear it up. I would say it is important, and it is important as long as we are rooted in the same principles and values, right? Go back and look at your military career. There is a technique that the Army uses to where when we actually share in suffering, we bond together that creates like you really can't explain the bond that we actually have based upon the multiple things that we go through. You go to the field, you do PT, you do all these things, you do these deployments, and you have a relationship that is like unspeakable, right? So to his question, I would definitely say yes. But again, it has to be rooted in the exact same principles and exact same values, and therefore in the midst of that shared suffering, because you know from experience, in that shared suffering, tension's gonna get high. Some people gonna be heated, some people gonna be upset. You ain't gonna be where you need to be doing what I need you to do at this particular point in time. So we gonna get to having some heated conversations, but we always got to go back to the shared values, because the shared values is what bring the temperature back down, recognizing that we're on the same team.
And yeah, and I think you jumped one of my questions almost, I think. But and because I'm with you with the that's where when they put on your award, they say talking about esprit de corps and all that other stuff, because we've gone through some things. And we understand that, being from the military aspect, that when you go through something, that's why they have those team building exercises in the military. It's because you ain't got to like this person. But then when you go through something together, y'all have that shared experience. Like, hey, it was bad for all of us. It wasn't just bad for me, but we got through it. And
Absolutely.
I think that's where in relationships, when we get through something together, it's like, I don't care all that other stuff. Because you see some people on your timeline, they talking about this over here. I ain't focused on that. We went through that. I can talk about that. But I ain't touching that part, because that's just a differences of opinions. So I definitely appreciate that question coming in the chat. You say that's Sergeant Major?
Yeah, man. Sergeant Major Rhino. Sergeant Major Stephen Ryan, man. Great guy. Awesome guy. Yeah, I met him in 4th BCD, and man, I don't care what year it is, what it is, we're gonna always be friends. So shout out to Sergeant Major Ryan.
Because y'all went through some stuff. Nah. But think about it. We can say we went to this place and we did this and we shared these experiences. And it's like, man, we can always go back to that. And it's like, man, some of those situations, they aren't positive. They aren't good, but we went through it together and we came back out on the other end. And when you're looking at relationships, that's where the people putting percentages on things and things of that nature. Sometimes you just got to give what you can. And sometimes I got to give what I can. Let's get through the mission. Let's build the relationship. Let's see how, like, if I'm in a relationship, I want to know how I can help you grow. Because if my mind ain't how I can help you grow, or if it's all about how you can help me grow, how you can do this, then I'm not really in a relationship with you. I'm trying to make you be in a relationship with me on my terms. So, yeah. Let's see where this next question takes us. Can lasting relationships be built on trauma? And if so, how? That's why I say you jump me.
So, okay. I don't think this is the same thing, first of all. I will start there. But I do not retract anything I said about Sergeant Major Ryan's question. Now, if it began based upon a trauma, two ways I look at it. Number one, if we are on a growth pattern together so that we can remove ourselves from the trauma, and not only just that, we have created these boundaries to where we don't revisit the trauma during certain moments in time in our relationship, then the answer is yes. However, if the question is, can lasting relationships be built on the trauma itself and it stays in the trauma, like the trauma becomes the root of the relationship, then lasting, probably not. But however long it lasts, it ain't gonna be good.
And that's why when I said we have people that we experience some things with, some trauma, but over here, we don't share any values at all. It's like, okay, we got this experience together. We can connect here, but on everything else, we're disjointed. We're disconnected. So I think too many people think that when just because, and I know we do it where I can say I've done it, to where if you were from the inner city I felt you had the same or similar experience. Now we can connect on that level. That don't mean we should have a lasting relationship, because that doesn't mean that our mentality is the same. And if our mentality is the same, it has to go back to values, not to shared experiences. Values connect us now. And when values connect us, it's like, okay, the values don't even come from me. So now I got to say, okay, these values come from uh, uh, who we deem as our higher authority. So now our higher authority says, this is how you move. Whether you like it or not, this is how you move. Whether you're mad or not, this is how you move. So our relationships, they're built on this, not on these experiences, not on the traumas, not on the, we rather build these things on off social media, off quick takes, off shorts, off things of that nature, and listen to people who we don't know how they actually live tell us how to live, instead of us actually, moving the right way.
You ain't got nothing else to that. It is what it is.
Yeah, like which question? That was loyalty. No, that was that. Okay, let's go to the next question. What's the difference between loyalty and self-preservation?
What's the difference, or what's the connection between the connection between loyalty and self-preservation is that if I practice self-preservation, I'm loyal to myself. That's the connection. I hate to say it that way. It is what it is. I literally stated earlier that relationship is a space of collaboration. Relationship is a space of self-sacrifice for the elevation of the greater relationship. Each person sacrificing themselves for the sake of relationship. Not one person dependent upon the other person to sacrifice themselves, and they're reaping the spoils because the other person sacrificed. That's codependency, right? Not one person abusing the other person, and then at a later point in time, when the person start packing their bags, go to them and say, "Baby, I love you. I can't do this without you," whatever the case may be. And then you start feeling down and saying, "Okay, well, he needs me. He can't," whatever the case may be, or vice versa. Because I don't want to give the impression that women are the only people that abuse in relationship. It works both ways, right? And again, the abuse is not just physical, it's also emotional and psychological as well. So again, anything that points it back to myself and I am trying to protect myself in relationship is self-preservation. And if I am practicing self-preservation in relationship, I'm not in relationship with you. You're in relationship with me.
So loyalty focuses outward to the relationship, while self-preservation focuses, how do I gain?
I mean, I can be loyal to myself.
You can.
You see it a lot.
Yeah.
It's not good for a relationship, though.
At all. And that's why we're talking about meaningful relationships. And when we talk about meaningful relationships, people think that you got to have it all together. And that's far from the truth, because sometimes you are getting things together. And I see you getting things together. And if we're in relationships, that's why I don't call everybody friend. And I'm quick to, hey, I know that person. People like to, friend. That's my BFF. I don't know that person. I don't know how they think. That's a person that we had some good times, but that's not necessarily my friend. Because my friends that I consider my friends, they think like me. They want to see me do better, and I want to see them do better. And we have a connection to where we can actually communicate. Because I think communication is a key to having sound relationships. If you can't communicate, if it's always a one-sided thing where once I start, you got to finish, like, oh, you ain't listening to a word I said. You just waiting to talk. I think that's one of those things where you're loyal to self, because now you feel uncomfortable and you are out. I try not to dive into the feelings thing when I'm trying to establish truths, when I'm trying to establish how we should move. Because if I'm just feeling, well, that made me feel sad, to me, that's preschool. preschoolers deal with feelings. Now, well, tell me how you felt about it, and point to the face on the wall. That's not how adults should handle things. I think adults, if you find yourself dealing with your feelings more or less than you are what's actually going on, that's where you got to do that internal work. You got to say, okay, I'm not as mature as I thought I was. So maybe I do need to step back and get to a place to where I can have this relationship with a person where it can be fruitful. Because as long as you're dealing in feelings, your fruit gonna pass away.
This is why I'm not a fan of all of these self whatever that exists out there, right? We'll take the word self and put in front of everything, and then we'll say that that's what we're doing. Oh, I'm doing self care. Oh, self love, self whatever. Like, why do I need to put self in front of everything? Pay attention. It is a psychological trap that they're trying to get you in, and you keep falling for it because you're using it. Love don't need no adjective in front of it. Care does not need an adjective in front of it. Like, stop doing that. It's just simple, simple, right? Love is love. It does not require the word self to go in front of it. Care is care. It does not require the word self to go in front of it. Every time we buy into that logic, we're more apt to use the word self,
Hmm.
and it is divisive. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that we don't sometimes things sound so good and catchy that we don't realize that it's dividing.
Mhm.
Just because when I say I'm doing my self care, I'm isolating myself from you. If I say, hey, I'm caring, I'm just caring. Now, if you say you caring, now I can say, man, I might want some of that. Like, let me see how we can do this, and let me see how I can be a part of whatever he's doing. But I think that selfishness. I think that when we start to grow, start to mature, maturity always shows you. So anything that I see, I'm not saying, oh man, that fit coach right there. That fit him to the T. Like, hold up. I just bypassed me in this whole thing and I found something for him? Like something wrong with that picture. So yeah.
Mm, mm.
What?
I I don't see nothing wrong with that.
What? If I see something and I just focus on you?
Oh no, okay, I misunderstood what you were saying. My bad.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
just saying I focus on you.
gotcha. I
Yeah.
got you.
Because if I see something that may benefit you,
Right.
hey, right. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to benefit you.
Okay.
Not
Got
that I'm passing all my stuff. Hey, get that out the way. Whatever. This right here, that's for coach right there.
right. Gotcha. I'm tracking what you're saying now. I
Yeah.
was I was viewing it, and the other side that you spoke of. That's what I was thinking about. Like, you know what I'm saying? Something. Hey man, I think this actually helped right here. Let me hit roll up and say it and share this with Roller real quick. Cause I just got this revelation of this word. I want to call my brother and say, hey man, I got something for you real quick. It's hot off the press, hot off my press, not hot off this press. It's been on this press, right? It's hot off my press. I just want to share it with you. And you be like, oh man, yeah, I knew that. Okay, cool. Now we have something that we can converse about, right?
But that's relationship.
That's relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everybody don't always like relationship. People,
Well,
people that are in relationships don't even like relationships.
well, you know.
It's like, hold up, how you in a relationship and you don't want to talk? How you in
Mm,
a relationship and you don't want me to see something where you, as we used to say, your slip is showing, and I'm trying to. Now you mad? It's like, no, you should be able to call me out. You should be able to say something to me.
mhm.
I ain't gotta like it. I think people live in that like mode. Everything got to feel good to me, and if
Yep.
I don't like it, I'm gonna be in my feelings about it, and we gonna. Hey, I ain't talking to coach this week, and I'm gonna side with people, and I'm gonna tell everybody, and I'm gonna paint a bad picture. But if it's a meaningful relationship, and you tell me something that may even hurt my feelings or maybe where I think is against me, I got to hear you out.
Right.
Yeah, I got to listen to it. And sometimes we don't necessarily listen. So, number 7, in our building of these relationships, Must we have similarities, or can we have differences as well, like faith, income, and status?
So I kind of talked about this previously. I mentioned principles that lead to shared values. I think those things must be similar. Income, they can be similar, right? In fact, if we're understanding what environment is, we probably don't want to be in an environment with people with similar incomes because that's stagnation. I want to be in an environment where somebody makes this amount of money, whatever the case may be, because that's going to provoke me to grow. I need to be in relationship. Like I'm not a status person, so I'm just gonna leave that one out. But I need to be in relationships where I'm provoked. I think to your point of what you just said previously, I don't think we like being in relationships where we are provoked. We like being in relationships where we are accepted
Mhm.
because that's the common trend. That's the common trend of conversation that exists. I don't want nobody to attempt to make me better. I want somebody to accept me for who I am. Then you should not be in relationship because relationship is not loyal to who you are. Relationship is loyal to who you're supposed to be. So now, in the midst of that, the only thing that for me, in my mind, the similarities must be the principles that drive a shared value. And those things now becomes the pivot point for everything else. All the other things can look different, but it has to be principles, shared values. And then when these other things look different, right? These other I'm gonna change it from income to status, and I'm gonna change it to specialties. When the specialties look different, then those specialties can serve the relationship. But if we both do the exact same thing, and again, this all depends on the type of relationship we're talking about, right? If we're both doing the exact same thing, husband and wife, then at the end of the day, we're gonna have to outsource a lot of stuff because we got the same talents in the relationship, then that means there's some other work that has to be done that we're not gifted in doing. So now I got to pay this person to do that. I got to pay this person to do that. And I got to pay this one. And that's okay to outsource things that you don't know how to do because for you to take the time to learn how to do it is going to take away from the time that you're supposed to be using to do the thing that you're called to do. But I believe that the other things can be different as long as those things serve the greater good of the relationship.
And you were alluding to, I liken it to how the scripture says not to be unequally yoked. And I think some people, when they think of that scripture, what they think of is that you have two equal partners, two equal oxen pulling in the same direction. But that's not how it was. You had one stronger to teach the other how to actually walk straight, how to walk in the line.
Older,
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 more mature.
right.
Yes,
The
right,
younger
right.
one is
The other is
stronger.
stronger. Yes,
Correct.
yes. The younger is stronger, but if he just got out, the younger just got out there, he just gonna walk in a circle, to everything. But the older knows exactly what to do, and that's why you can't just be around people in your same level. Like if I'm at this level and I'm satisfied here, that says something about me. It's like, hold up, now how can I pull someone else up? How can I be because if I have somebody and I'm looking to them for guidance and I'm looking to them for them to help, uh, we're in relationship and they're showing me. In turn, I have to be showing someone else. That's just how this reciprocal work happens. But I think we might. Some people think that, oh man, I need everybody that's flying high. I need all eagles and all of this. But at some point in time, you have to become a teacher. You can't always be the student. You can't always be the teacher in all facets of life when it comes to your relationships. Sometimes you are in a learning posture. And in that learning posture, that's exactly what you're doing. You're learning how to become this. You're learning how to become better. Because I forgot who I was talking to the other day. Uh, he said something about me when I was 30 something. I said, yeah, I was 30 something stupid. Now at 50 something, I shouldn't be 30 something stupid. I've learned and I've grown. I've been through that. So those little things that knocked me off my feet then shouldn't even bother me at this point. But someone who is in their 30s now, I can have a conversation with them. That's why I will have a conversation with older gentlemen, older people who have been through some things and can actually teach and guide me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the fact that you brought up the notion of being equally yoked, because what we have to recognize, just like we talked about, the older and the older one being more mature, the younger one being the strongest of the two. But make no mistake about it, both of them was working toward the same goal. That's the key to everything. If we're not working toward the same goal, we're not equally yoked. If we don't have the same principles, we're not equally yoked. If we don't have a shared set of values that join us together, we're not equally yoked. And that's the key. And I'm sorry, when you said something about eagles, man, I need to repent because I heard it's some crows in this house. I'm sorry. I don't know why that came to my. I feel like I need to repent for that.
Yeah, because I saw you laugh. I'm like, what are you laughing? I say, because sometimes I say something flippant. I'm like, what I say? You threw me off. That was you right there. That wasn't even me.
I said crows. Just want to make sure y'all heard me.
See, yeah, you said crows, but the problem is we all have past and we remember.
Yeah, man. The mind is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love it. In relationships, these meaningful relationships, what part does forgiveness and grace take place? What part does it, hold?
What part does forgiveness and grace take? Or I want to make sure.
What part does what part does it play?
Okay. I'll start with grace first, because I think that's important. I think it's important for us to understand, number one, the same thing that we always tend to say when somebody try to hold us accountable. Nobody's perfect. Grace allows me to look at who I used to be and recognize that I'm not judge or jury when somebody shows me who they currently are. It allows me to exercise compassion for them and have conversation with them instead of putting them on the court and giving them the knife hand when I'm talking to them. Forgiveness is a thing, but what we have to remember about forgiveness is that because we like to exist under this umbrella of blanket forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be ready to forgive. I'll say that again. I need to be ready to forgive, but you need to be ready to repent. Because if you don't repent, go back and research it. If you don't repent, that does not trigger the forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to be ready to forgive. Again, it has to be in in the midst of offense. Forgiveness has to be available for me while you're doing the offense. That has to be my posture when existing in relationship. So now, once I bring the offense to your attention and you repent without going back and justifying, again, we got to understand what we mean when we say repent, because a lot of times people will try to, say that I'm sorry, but then after they say I'm sorry, they tend to go back and justify. Well, now you just nullified the fact that you said I'm sorry. You didn't even mean it when you said I'm sorry. It was just a formality. Right. So repentance is that you're recognizing the offense that you actually committed, then letting that person know, and this is a form of it. I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but this might be the most correct way. You recognizing the offense that you did, you're telling the person that you not only you recognize the offense, but you recognize how they feel about the offense. And then you let the person know that I'm not going to do that again. And then you turn away your behavior to not do it again. That's the thing. Once all of that happens, not waiting for the not waiting for the behavior turn, but once the conversation you need to be ready to forgive instantly. You're not holding them in contempt based upon your emotions from that point on, which I know a lot of people tend to do. Yeah. They'll put you on what's that thing? They'll put you on emotional probation until they feel like letting you go. Yeah. That is error. That is wrong. Get yourself together, because if you cannot regulate your emotions to that degree, then again, I keep going back to where I started in the beginning. You ain't ready for a relationship. Do better.
Yeah, I love how you worded that. I think that people look at grace as, everybody says, what is grace? Grace is God's unmerited favor, yada yada yada. Sound good till you got to put it in action. Because we ain't talking about him. We talking about you. And I think that what we need to do is actually look at things how they are and what grace is. Grace is the same way if you have a car payment that's due on the first or whatever, they will give you a grace period to
Mhm.
get this thing in right standing. And sometimes we want to hold people in which, like you said, in this probationary period till I feel that you have suffered. I feel that you mean what you said, instead of being in a posture to where, man, this forgiveness, I'm ready for it. And I'm ready for it because of the relationship. I'm ready to forgive you because I want to love on you. I want us to move forward. But instead of doing that, what we do, we hold people in bondage. And well, let me see. I don't know. I want to see how they moving. And I know if they come truly repentant, not just come trying to get the conversation out the way, like you said, but if they come truly, and it's not for me to deem it as law. I don't know if you meant that. If they said it where it's like it's a genuine conversation, not just throwing, okay, you right. Because sometimes that's what we do. We be in our field, we just trying to shut somebody's mouth, and we say, okay, you're right. Let's get it over with. I'm sorry. I apologize. Apologize for what? And they can't even articulate what they're apologizing for. They don't mean it. But when they can actually articulate what the issue was and why they did such and such, now you understand that, man, this person really wants the relationship to flourish, and they're realizing that this is holding the relationship back. And that means that this is a meaningful relationship, not just to them, but to us, because we want to make it move forward. So now I have no position other than being gracious and restoring that person with forgiveness. And
Yeah.
forgiveness means that, hey, I'm not sitting up there looking over my shoulder. I'm putting you in position to say, okay, let's move forward. I ain't even holding that against you.
Right. I love that. Um, I think we need to recognize some things. Um, the Most High has exercised mercy on our behalf. He has not issued the punishment that we deserve. He has also exercised grace on our behalf, right? He gave us things that we did not ask for or deserve or even wanted at the time that he gave it to us. I think just being aware of that alone and recognizing that we're supposed to be his ambassadors, I think being aware of that alone should help us to exercise and express that same level of grace, to my understanding, and same level of mercy as well. So recognizing that I can have a conversation with you about something that I observed, right? This kind of goes back to the whole conversation about psychoanalyzing people, right? I can have a conversation with you by expressing to you something that I observed in your behavior. Keep in mind, the only thing that stands in between what I shared with you and your ability to actually repent is your ego. I don't want to talk to your ego. Get your ego from in between us because your ego is causing problems. In fact, if your ego is a vital part of this relationship, again, go sit down someplace until you learn to get your ego under control. Your ego is all about protecting and preserving you. So, again, going back to self preservation, because what you're saying in that moment is that in this relationship, your loyalty lies in you. So I'm only loyal to myself. That's why I am rejecting the fact that you're calling me out based upon the behavior that I displayed, giving factual information to me. And I'm trying to tell you that it's not fact. Come on, man. Sit down someplace. Come on, man. What are we doing right now?
Last question is simple. Simple question. I always hear the term real friend. What does that mean to you?
That there are fake friends out there. Woohoo. Joking. Um, it don't mean nothing to me.
Mm.
I don't think there's any such thing as a quote unquote real friend. I just believe that they're friends. Either you are a friend or you are not a friend. That is all. Again, I don't need an adjective in front of it. I don't have to quantify real because I don't have to quantify friend with real because if I quantify it with real, that means that there's some faux friends out there. FAUX for all your en français speakers, right? Those faux that means there's some faux friends out there. And trust and believe, we know that there are fake friends out there. There are people out there who play the role of friendly because they're looking to extract from you. So at the end of the day, all you're doing is observing behavior. Behavior will tell you if a person is a friend. Like my grandmother said, just give time. I promise you, the true them, they can't keep up a facade for so long. I've been saying this for the longest. And the funny part about it is that not only do I know people who've witnessed it, it is always being witnessed. Give time. Don't be so quick to adorn a person into a place of greatness. Just wait. Give them time. Let's see if they have the sustaining power of their lips. Because whatever they put out in the atmosphere in the beginning, they should also be able to sustain that all the way through. If they can't sustain it all the way through, that means that what they put out in the beginning was not accurate. Well, if what they put out in the beginning is not accurate compared to the behavior that they have shown over the duration, that's not a friend. That's a person who put on a facade for one reason or the other. Here's the best part about it. You don't have to care about the reason. The reason is immaterial. Build with those who will build with you, and then reject those who don't want to build with you. And again, it's not a rejection that you're shunning them away. No, they move away on their own. It's okay. Stick to the principles, stick to the shared values.
You either a friend or you're not. I don't, oh, that's my real friend. I think what that is when people feel a certain type of way about how other people have treated them who they didn't do the due diligence and work to see who these people truly were, and they just looked at people and said, "Man, since we have commonalities, these are my friends." Instead of saying, "Man, let me sit up here and see where we align to where we can grow," and what we like to go to places and put people in positions that they shouldn't be in. We put people as friends because we went out. We put people as friends because we like to do the same thing. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at my friends are people who not only I can build with, not only do I get along with, but they can also have the tough conversations with me. They can also listen to me have the tough conversations with them. But it's always to the point where we're looking at how can we flourish the relationship and make it grow. And that's all we have today. And this is easy tonight. When we go for our last word, we're down to our final thoughts. We're gonna have Coach go, and then I'll come behind.
All right. Great conversation, I believe. I believe there was a lot of great nuggets that we can take from this. Again, please go back and look at it again. Because again, the topic of this conversation is all about how to unlock deep connections, discover the secrets to meaningful relationships. And I think that's kind of like what we talked about in great detail. But I want to give you at least 5 things to take with you because I think these 5 things will really help you out. First and foremost, it is everybody's responsibility to police themselves up in relationship. That's where we all have to begin. So, what does that policing up look like? Like, number one, I have to have the ability to process vulnerability internally and externally. It's not just about me being vulnerable or me putting my demands on you to be vulnerable because I don't think you're being vulnerable at the level that I feel you should be vulnerable, right? So we have to get to the point of processing vulnerability internally and externally. Next, we have to get to the point to where we resolve within ourselves my past concerns. Do not bring your past issues unresolved into your next endeavor, because trust me, whatever you didn't fix back here will sabotage up here. Next, I have to get to the point to where I retrain my brain to crave what I tend to call quiet intimacy over drama. Listen, I do know that some of us are conditioned for drama. Like, we got to stop it. If my initial thoughts about anything begins with anything negative, then I have a drama conditioning that I need to work on. Just because I call you and I don't reach you when I call you, I don't automatically assume that you're doing something you don't have anything, have any business doing. So again, I have to get to the point of retraining my brain to desire quiet intimacy over drama. Next, I have to get to the point to where I redefine attraction through what I tend to call cultural wholeness. Now, this is different than cultural awareness because we all like to talk about culture and so forth and so on. The cultural wholeness that I'm making reference to is principle that drives shared values. Principle that drives shared values create a culture, and that's the culture where we all can exist and be whole. And last but not least, I have to say this. This is, to me, I think should be the starting point, because we have to reverse engineer it, right? Be open to having the movie script that you have in your head transformed. Don't go into any situation thinking that your interpretation of what that situation looked like is the reality and the destination for both of us. And that is my final thought.
Love the conversation. I appreciate my brother as always coming with articulate points and everything. I think that when it comes to the secrets to building meaningful relationships, we talked about a gamut of things. Like he said, go back and watch it. I'm going to go back and watch it. But life has a way of testing friendships. And sometimes you carry the heavy load. Sometimes, the heavy load is carried for you. But when it comes to friends will help you carry. But sometimes they will just walk alongside you, because sometimes that's all you need. It's not about whether or not somebody can carry your load. Sometimes you got to suck it up and carry your own load. Sometimes somebody just got to be there to encourage you to keep pushing, to keep moving, to keep carrying, because you need to learn a lesson, or because you need to go through that. And we need to get out of this mindset that if this person isn't doing what I want them to do, then they aren't my friend. Sometimes that person is doing what they can do. Sometimes that person is making sure that you can manage, you are encouraged, you can get through the day. And when you have friends in your life that want to see you better, not want to pacify you, not want to ignore how you feel about things, but want to see you do better. So sometimes you got to be to the point to where you can listen without being emotional, listen without getting in your feelings, to see what's best for the relationship and not just you and the relationship. So, hey, till next week, hey, I appreciate y'all. We came here, we had a task, we made it happen, and I appreciate everything that happened in the chat, because y'all were on it. And I think we have some things going on tomorrow at 10:30.
Yes, sir. The Hearts of Women go live. I seen it in the chats earlier. I can't find it now. But the Hearts of Women go live at 10:30. And there it is. Hearts of Women go live tomorrow morning at 10:30. So let's come out and show a massive amount of support, because they will be talking about gentle parenting. I think that's going to be an awesome conversation, and I'm looking forward to having that. So yeah.
And on Sunday, we will be on the Voice of Reason's platform, where she's already ready. She ready for it all. So yeah, we're gonna be over there. But until next time, hopefully we have our brothers back with us next week. Oh, you guys are
I got one more point. There's some crows in this house. I just want to do my DT dance, man. You know the little DT dance he was doing? I thought that was kind of funny. All right, that's all I got.
Hey, until next week. Appreciate y'all.